What's up guys, Cerebro here. Something a little different today. Today we're going to do an install for an Asus G53J series, the big boy here. I call it the Nighthawk because it is supposedly based on the Nighthawk jet design. It is about 47,000 pounds heavy and is pretty complicated to get into, so we're just kind of going to get into it here. I want to kind of show you guys what you need and what is recommended to do. Always be careful. Remember, no one else is responsible for what you do to your own stuff. So the first thing you're going to need obviously is another caddy. No, there's not an extra in there. They are likely sold out on Asus. We actually had to pick this up off eBay. So you know, if you're doing this job, you're going to need a caddy. If your computer has dual slots for hard drives, this is the first and foremost thing you need. Everything else you can pretty much find everywhere else. Which brings us to our next piece, our SSD. Now we're going from a standard 500 gig internal hard drive to an SSD. Now, you guys remember my elementary OS install, the SSD swap? SSDs make a huge difference. So this bad boy should provide a huge improvement on our boot times and any software access. So this is going to be very important. With this, we went with the 840 EVO from Samsung. No particular reason, you know, it was on sale. These days, unless you're going with performance SSD, it's really all one and the same. I've got PNY, I've got ADATA, I've got Kingston, we've got Samsung, and there's really not a huge difference. Unless you go into like the HyperX from Kingston or the high-end stuff, your day-to-day variations are pretty much going to be the same. So pick up what's affordable to you. My recommendation is if you're going to be replacing a drive, do not do 120. This is going to be a boot drive only. We have 2 slots in here, the 500 staying. 120 normally would not be my recommendation for anyone replacing a drive, but if you are adding a drive to a system, a 120 is going to be plenty because all that's going to be on here is your operating system, maybe your most used applications. All your data is going to be on your secondary drive, which we're leaving the 500 in here for. So 120 is okay for this, but if you're replacing a drive, please 240 or better. Now, of course, the main thing here, your tools. I picked up an iWork set from Home Depot. I think it was like 20 bucks. It has any variation of screwdrivers you would need, various extensions. It's even got a ratcheting screwdriver, so pretty much could do anything you need to. And I always like to keep some extra screws around because I think this is actually going to need 4 screws to hold down. The drive should come with its own drive screws, but we're going to need 4 to actually put this bad boy down. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Alright, so we got a screwdriver set up. We need a couple different pieces. We're going to need a flat head for the initial portion. But I've got my little extension here because I don't really like being too close to the screws. That's my personal thing. And we need a flat head to pop off the keyboard because this is not a normal laptop. Your access is actually from the top here, not from underneath as with most laptops. So we've got our notches here that are actually holding down the keyboard. So we're going to pop those bad boys out. You're going to see it pretty much slide right up. There we go. Now we don't want to be pressing any, we don't want to be yanking on anything. We're very careful. You got to remember, underneath the keyboard there are ribbons. You don't want to just flip this over. You want to be very careful and figure out what's connected and what needs to be unplugged. And always try to keep a mental idea of how things are plugged in. Everyone plugs in, every manufacturer plugs their stuff in differently. So you want to make sure that everything goes back in the same way that it came out. Now, I've done laptop component installations 1,000 times at this point. I feel confident using my screwdriver near the board. If you have not done this before, don't do that. If it slips, if you cut the board, game over. For instance, this normally shows on top. On most ribbon cables, this is on top. The way this is coming out, it's actually on the bottom. So it's something to keep track of, keep in mind when putting things back together. Leave the tape around. Some of them are going to be flipped. So these are slide out style. They slide out to release the cable. These flip up to release the cable. Other things like the speaker wire is usually plugged straight in, so it will come right out. But keep the tape around because usually you want to put that stuff back the way it was. I like to keep my screws kind of around the computer the way they came out. Only drawback of this screwdriver set is that it is not magnetic, and I don't think this guy is either. And go the hard way. So like I said, I like to keep them kind of where they're coming out of so that I know where to put them back in. But in this case, we're recording it, so I can always go back and look. Now that we got those screws done, like I said, this got to be number 2. There's no other spots. I double checked. This particular unit has a very specific release system. There's a lever right under here that you actually got to slide over. So very carefully, without pressing too far in deep, slide that lever over. And now pop this keyboard, pop the trackpad off. So if you actually kind of press on this side, it will push this side up. If you've got a little bit longer nails, you might even be able to do it without tools, like so. Okay, and remember, ribbons are very, very important, so that was already unplugged, so that slides right out. I'll put that aside with the keyboard. We're going to switch back. Now, the mother load, the rest of the screws.
By the way, guys, there's a lot of screws.
Searching for answers, trying not to.
Flip the bad boy over. Should be pretty straightforward. There it is. Notice. There. Look at that. It looks like I was battling with a screw. And that's why we have an issue. Broke off one of your screws. That's my bad, bro.
No.
2. Jeez. Well, that's why you do your research, kids. Alright, so we got our 2 slots here. So we're just going to use this as the primary?
Yeah. So
we're not going to swap them?
No, you don't have to swap.
Okay. I'm asking for your opinion.
Yeah. No swapping with that.
4, 4.
Three slots?
4's on the board.
Oh, is it?
I believe so.
Okay, well that would make sense. So we have 10. We're fine. 10's good.
Ideally, before you unplug anything that requires power, you pull the power. So, unplug or plug in. So now that we got that open, I'm gonna get our, like magic, we're gonna go ahead and open this bad boy up. Don't cut towards yourself unless you know what the hell you're doing with a knife. I don't take any responsibility for you cutting your stupid self. So now, this being a dual drive system, there's going to be a very, very specific way of mounting. Now they're marked right and left. That's why there's 4 screw holes on each side. What you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're plugging it in, you want to match up where your screws are going to go. So your screws are going to plug in here. Alright, you want to make sure that it's not facing the wrong way. So this is how we're going to go. Again, left, right marking. So this is going in on the left side. The SSD has to be this way. Now, when you line it up with your SATA port, when you line up your caddy, you line up your SATA port, everything's going to be pretty much lined up so that when you go over here, you don't really have to think about where you're plugging these in. You're just going to plug them in. And I'll be a monkey's uncle. The drive didn't come with no screws. That's why we do this. Not a single screw. Now, if you are installing a traditional hard drive, you want to make sure to put in all 4 by installing alternate corners. Since we are not installing a traditional drive, there's nothing in there that's going to be offset in any way by not doing that. So we just do one on each corner and we're in good shape. If you have the right screw, it's going to be just a little bit of resistance until it screws in. If it is the wrong screw, for instance, that would be too thin, it will go in way too fast and it will not stay in place. If it is too long, it will likely break the internal board. Alright kids, so we've discovered the importance of checking your parts. This is not quite the original left bracket on this. This might be from a different series of Asus. Luckily it's close enough to where we can modify it and still have a usable caddy. Now, if you can see on this here, we've got it almost flush with the top, and this side actually dips down a bit. And that's kind of what we were missing here. On this, they were on both sides, they were kind of flat and they were about a quarter of the way down from the top. So what we ended up doing is kind of stretching it out a bit. We ripped one off and we bent one down so that it would catch the hook here. So it's still gonna fall into place for us. It's still gonna screw in on the one corner. It's gonna hold itself in on the other corner, and then when we put the bracket on, it'll be in place. So I think we should still be in good shape, and this will still be a usable, workable device. You always want to take an opportunity if you're in a computer to see if everything's clean, see if there's any potential for upgrade. Here we've got two 4 gigs, we've got another 4 gig on top, and I believe there's actually 4 gig on the board. That's not true, that's not how math works.
I am here, guys, in the back.
So we've got, I swear though there was 4 slots.
I could have sworn it was 4 slots.
I would have put money on it. Hold on, we'll take a look. Take a look when we flip it back up. I think there's supposed to be 4 slots.
By the way, guys, once again, make sure you're not putting pressure on this stuff because it will break. You don't need a lot of pressure to put it back. You just need to be patient.
They are mostly plastic clips. And they will break. Okay. That's our drives. Is there 1 slot up here? It might just be 3.
3 slot? That's interesting.
But that would be, so what, a 12 gig max? Weird max, but alright.
No, because you could still, like, well, it's possible that it's a 12 gig max unless it supports 8 gig sticks.
Make sure everything is good, make sure nothing's popping out, make sure all your clips went down and snapped in, and you should be in good shape. We're not going to show you the install because there's 1,000 Windows 7 installations out there. We're going to go hit the gym, do the install, then we're going to show you guys the comparison of the boot up speeds.
Damn.
Alright guys, so here you have it. To your left is the original boot up on the 500 gig standard moving hard drive, and to your right we have the new SSD, and I think it's clear to see what the benefits of having an SSD are, and should definitely keep that in mind when buying new computers or when looking to upgrade your own. An SSD can definitely make the difference between, well, as you see, you know, couple minutes to a few seconds. Everything has been removed from the system, so it's going to go straight into the system without a login, and the only thing that's loading up at startup is the NVIDIA control panel, which has to. Alright guys, that's all we got for you today. Obviously you see the huge benefits of doing SSD. This is definitely the way to go. Thanks for checking this out. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment if you got something to say, if you got any questions. And definitely check out t3gtech.com. I know I keep promising it, but a lot of fun new stuff coming very soon. Cerebro, signing off.